Hello, my fellow patriots. I am Bradie Whetham, and today on TPL Media, we are going to be talking about cannabis, not only medical, but recreational cannabis. And the best person I could ever think about bringing onto this show to talk about cannabis is a former activist and a man who knows probably more about cannabis than he even wants to admit. My guest today, Mike Dinsmore. Mike, how are you, brother?
Too bad, man. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so recreational cannabis has been legal in Canada now for about just under 8 years. There's been some highs, there's been some lows, there's been some ups and some downs. In your personal opinion, do you think that this was a good move or a bad move on behalf of Canada? I know that sounds really weird to ask after, 8 years of it being legalized, but do you think that there's problems here? Was it a good idea? Was it a bad idea? What do you think?
Well, it took a while for me to form my opinion, right? As an activist off the gate, I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Right. But in time, with all the progress that we've made, I really see the potential in it now. Right.
Okay.
There's still a lot of work to do, but I see potential in it. And I think that it would never have got to that point if it hadn't become legal.
Now, cannabis seems to be the most obnoxious hobby in terms of the smell and how it is perceived by the average person that doesn't partake in cannabis. Have some of those things been cleared up since legalization or no?
I think you don't hear as much complaining anymore, right? Like when the majority of the people out are users themselves.
Yep.
We're not getting as much bickering, right? But there are still going to be people who don't like it. There's people who don't like the smell of cars. Like it is what it is, right? We have to get used to it.
That's an interesting way to look at it, because I know in Toronto for about 10 years, it's been just out in the open. People are just everywhere smoking on the side of the street. And now that's transferred to some of the smaller cities, and pretty much everywhere you go, like even late night, if I'm walking a dog or something like that, you'll notice that there's like a young couple coming across from you, and they kind of hide their hand, and then you get past them and you realize why they're hiding their hand.
Yeah.
They don't want you to know. Like there's still a consideration for most people, but there's a lot of partaking on the sides of the street with this.
Yeah, there is. It's, as well as like vaping and stuff, right? And cigarette smoke. Like we got used to cigarette smoke, and now there's lots of people vaping, but nobody really hides that because it smells like gummy bears and rainbows and stuff like that.
Okay.
A lot of the market has switched over to concentrates, so you are seeing a lot less complaining, a lot less people smoking joints. Definitely not people outside on the street smoking bongs anymore, when there's a lot easier format to do it. Vaporizing dried cannabis and vaporizing concentrates seems to be a more popular way to do it now. It's a lot less incriminating yourself. It doesn't smell bad, and you don't need to hide it.
Now, I know that you're not a lawyer, and you're not part of the judicial system or anything, but how have the laws changed since like October 17th, 2018? What changed in the ways of laws just outside of legalization? Like, is there less trafficking laws now? Like, are they lenient on that, or are they more strict on that now that the OCS is?
Well, they actually have something to go off of now, right? Like, so there's a lot more impaired driving probably now that they're able to do the testing and prove it, right?
Yeah.
So that's changed. As for like incarcerations for, possession, that's definitely gone down, which is a super positive thing. And I'm sure like, some people are happy to have people not driving around intoxicated, right? Before, when you got pulled over, if you were drunk, you would probably get in trouble for it. But if you rarely would get caught for smoking cannabis and driving. Now it's a known test, right? They have tests, they have a way to test you. So a lot less people are doing it, which is making the road safer, and people are happy about it.
Now, okay, so with that said, you brought up alcohol. Alcohol sales seem to be down. This has been reported from Statistics Canada. This is reported from pretty much every place that does stats in Canada. We know alcohol sales are down. Is that because of recreational cannabis?
It probably has some. I think it's a trend. I think alcohol in itself is just kind of fading away. There's other options. Cannabis probably has a hand in that because it's now super readily available, over 3,000 shops, just in Ontario. So it's probably doing that for sure. But also a lot of the alcohol companies are switching over and making cannabis products. So it's not like they're losing revenue anyways. And
when you were an activist, I know one of the big things that you used to really make your voice known for is that if they legalize this for recreational use, that's going to open up the research inside of these labs, and we're going to know more about this plant that we don't fully understand. Has that taken place in your opinion?
100%.
Yeah.
It started pre-legalization, and it's moving forward tremendously. Like, we never knew about a lot of these cannabinoids that they're coming out with now that we all know about. CBN, CBG, CBD we knew about. We thought it was an amazing thing, with its inflammation curing and its seizure uh, you know, it helps with seizures and everything. But like now we have CBN that people are using to help them sleep. We have CBG to help with people's anxiety.
What's CBG?
CBG is, we call it like the god cannabinoid. Like it is premature. Essentially, I would explain it to somebody in dulled down form, like it's premature THC. It's what anything. So we call it the god terpene because it's what starts out, and then it can go anywhere from there. It could turn to CBD, it could turn to THC, it could turn to CBC. So it's basically where it starts, right? So
It can turn into the Canadian broadcasting shit. No, I'm joking. Okay, so is that with Rick Simpson oil? If anybody doesn't know, RSO, that was a full extract from the entire plant: roots, leaves, stem, flower, everything.
Full spectrum.
So that contains everything. Then
everything that plant had in it, right? Because all cannabis plants have different levels of different things in it, right?
So where do you think we're at in terms of understanding the plant? Are we there yet, or are we just like on the cusp of beginning to understand?
I think we're just beginning to understand it. So it's super, like we've made leaps and bounds. Like we basically knew nothing, you know, from what we know now. It feels like we knew nothing 14 years ago.
Okay.
Right. So I'm excited for the next 14 years. I think it's going to just the knowledge we're going to grasp and the things we're going to do with what we know, it's going to be amazing. And we're going to have some serious, you know, progress.
I got a weird question to ask you, and this is just for my own personal usage. Why can't I find like something like, let's say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Kushes came onto the scene. And if anybody doesn't know, Kush is usually an indica dominant, there's sativa and indica, and it's an indica dominant hybrid or an indica pure strain. Why does that not exist anymore? Why can't I find that? What's the actual science, as far as you know, as why these strains going to go through a life cycle and they disappear after a while? You fall in love with something and now it doesn't exist. Like if I fall in love with Molson Canadian, I can always go to the beer store, the liquor store, and now the gas station, depending on what province you live in, and get myself a Molson Canadian.
Because that's a recipe, right? And made with certain ingredients that never change, where cannabis is an ever evolving, ever changing plant. So it's always we breed it and we cross different strains. We find this one that helps with this, but I like this one that helps with that, and then we cross them together and we have something completely different. And we've been doing that for a long time now, and we're creating new strains, better strains, but we're also losing old strains that we loved.
Is that because the potency is dying and people aren't buying it, or is it just like after a while it doesn't have any life anymore? Like why is, as far as you know, why is that?
I don't know the exact science behind it. I just, you know, once we use clippings from mother plants, and I just know that, you know, the genetics do kind of wean down after a long time. I think they usually sometimes will do it for a couple of years for one plant, or they used to.
Okay. And extracts. If people don't know what extracts are, back in the day, you had hash, right? And everybody that partook in hash, they felt like it was a completely different thing than cannabis. Although it's the same plant,
yeah,
it gave you a different buzz.
You're shaking the important stuff off the plant.
What is going on with, you hear about people doing shatter and dabs and live rosins, and there's a million and one names, and live resins for all of these different types of extracts. What is an extract, cannabis extract? Is that as blatant as saying that's like a fruit extract? Like I can just get a concentrated form of it?
You're taking essentials of something out of it, right? So in whole form of a bud flower, right, you have the leaves and everything like that, but there's no benefit to smoking plant or plant matter. So we extract what we do want out of that plant, out of it, whether it be just the THC, or, you know, we go even deeper to take the terpenes and the taste and stuff out of it, and then we reintroduce it into the, you know, into the extract.
Well, and they have the CBD isolates, which are powders, and that's an extract form of CBD, and usually find it in a powder. They mix it in drinks and things like that.
Isolates the purest form, yeah.
Okay. Oh, it is the purest form,
I believe so, yeah.
See, I never passed science class.
Me neither.
At all in high school.
I passed.
I just didn't go.
Yeah, we never got to this
I probably
point.
could have passed.
Yeah.
But I do love this plant. I do love this topic. But there is some things, I've got some kind of reservations myself on cannabis, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I do think it is the most obnoxious form of hobby, or I guess if you want to call it getting a buzz or winding down at the end of the night or on the weekend. It seems to be very, very stinky.
It's the smell, right?
Can we stop the smell of cannabis, do you think, and still keep the buzz?
It'd be boring, because like a lot of that smell comes, like it's all taste, right? It's all created from terpenes and stuff like that, which we also enjoy when we, like, it's this taste, right?
So cannabis terpenes, are those the same as food terpenes?
They're similar, yeah, similar, like terpenes that, you know, we get from plants and stuff like that, where we get our flavor and our aromas
So
from.
lemonol or whatever it's called,
Limonene,
that's
yeah,
or
limonene. You
limonene.
would find that in lemon balm. You'd also, it's on the core of the lemon that makes it smell lemony, right?
So if I get an essential oil and it's got limonene in it, it's the same terpene, just an organic, like it's going to be the same kind of thing that's found in cannabis, or the same flavoring.
Where they got that flavor from is the same, yeah.
Because I remember 20 years ago, I had never heard of anything called a terpene. And then about 10 years ago, when the gray market really started popping up, people were like making a living off of just selling the terpenes that had no psychoactive effect or any medical benefits from it. It was just the flavor.
I just happened to like, I got into like essential oils at the time, and they're, you know, they're saying, oh, sniff this, it'll calm you down, and put a couple drops of this on your temple, it'll help your migraines. And I kind of got thinking, like, you know, oh, I've heard of that, you know, lavender, and I've heard of that limonene, and I've heard them and seen them written on packages and stuff, and on descriptions on Leafly and stuff. And I was like, you know, and I kind of put it together. These are the same thing, right? Like it, and I think it's amazing that, like, you know, each plant has different ones, right? Like a rose plant always produces that same terpene that a rose plant produces, right? So maybe sometimes the leaves will change different colors, but it always produces those terpenes. Sometimes it will produce that terpene, sometimes it won't. This one will produce that terpene, this one won't. And I just think it's kind of cool how it's a collective plant, like how it does that.
So you're very familiar with the OCS.
Yeah.
Right, you have a service license, and you work with them very closely. What do you think, if there is any corrections that could be made in the system that's currently there, that could be either updated, pulled back on, just to make this whole process better, in your opinion, from a store perspective? If I was a recreational average user and I walked in, what would make those stores better, if anything?
Well, they've helped out by letting us, you know, open up when we don't have to shade our windows anymore, which I think is great for just all around safety. Right. But
I think they originally wanted that for a safety reason, but it kind of was.
It's a very competitive market, right? We're not allowed to persuade you to buy. We're not allowed to say buy one get one free. We're not allowed to do stuff like that.
There's no like marketing that could go towards kids. We know that exists in all these bills that were passed.
I'm not allowed to market it to influence an adult either, though.
Really?
Yeah.
This is why we're not seeing the same thing as we see in the States. Like Mike Tyson has his own cannabis line.
Like when you buy a case of beer and you get a Stanley Cup in it, or you get a free jersey, or you get a free flag or something like that. Like we could never be like, come into the store, buy an ounce, and I'll give you a free t-shirt, or I'll give you some free concert tickets, or a chance to win this, because it influences you to buy cannabis. And we're not allowed to influence you. So we're not allowed to use like celebrity aid or advertising of any sort like that.
And from your understanding, why is that different between cannabis and alcohol? Do you even know, or is that just a lobby? Like, is that just something that
I honestly don't understand? I'm like
evolution eventually.
I'd like to hope there was some reasoning behind it, right? But as like some, you know, in the industry as a salesperson, we kind of scratch our heads like, but why? You know, if they can do it in this industry, why not in this industry? So, it's loosened up a little bit. I just think that they could take bigger leaps with their loosening up. They've loosened up a little bit on the milligramage.
Okay.
We had a 10 cap limit for edibles, right?
10 milligrams
per package.
Yeah, of extract.
We found a loophole where we sell 10 packages in one box, so it equals 100 milligrams, but you still have 10 milligram packages.
So the stores figured that. I guess it's not really a loophole, is it? It's just a technicality.
But it'd be nice if
they figured a way around
the option, right? And like it's just, or we have to do our job as a bud tender to pre-warn them, like, hey, how much milligram are you used to? I just don't think that every bud tender is going to do that, so they don't give them the option. Like, it's a terrible, like, you know, anybody who's ever greened out before, it is the worst experience you've ever had.
Well, it's processed through your liver a lot differently.
You're
than
overdosing
it is
on cannabis.
Yeah,
it is probably one of the worst feeling overdoses you can have. Right? It's far worse than alcohol or any other drug.
I chased that overdose.
So I feel like maybe
years.
You know, it's responsible of them to moderate it in that sense. Right. And we all know people like who aren't affected as highly as others on cannabis, but there's some who aren't like us. You know, they are affected heavily off very small amounts of cannabis. They have no business driving or doing anything, or you know, when they're under the influence, and they have to take those people into accountability.
So going back to what could be fixed inside of the OCS system, I know that there's you can order online pretty much from any store. There's some of these shops are up on Uber Eats, and things like that. So it's easily accessible. What do you think could be changed? Like, what
they could loosen up on limits? They could probably up people's limits.
Really?
I think, especially nowadays with people trying to be price conscious, and you know, maybe they just don't have the time to go out every day. They should be able to pick up a large amount or quantity to, you know, hold themselves over, right? We can go to Costco and buy any large amount of anything. We should be able to, you know, stock up.
Yep.
You can buy a trailer full of booze.
But if I leave with, you know, $1,000 worth of canned tomato soup, I don't have someone following me home trying to get that.
That is a good point.
Cannabis seems to still have a gray market.
That might be a part of the reasoning why, right? They just don't, they don't think it's safe to let somebody walk out with more than 30 grams.
And I'm not trying to argue with you about it. You know way more than I do in terms of the buyer-seller relationship. But I do feel like if it could put people in potentially you know, they're trying to do what's best for their wallet or do what's best for their bank account. They're going to put it in the freezer. They only use it for sleep at night.
There's got to be a reason. They're losing money themselves. Right? They're limiting their own sales. So.
So the medical community, since this recreational thing, we've talked a lot about recreation, what has gone on in the medical community? Have they pulled back, or are we still, and I'm talking about medical patients of cannabis that were using cannabis through the MMAR or ACMPR or whatever the licenses, they switched so many times throughout the years. Are they still being taken care of, in your opinion? Do you know anything about that side of the
I'm a medical
iceberg now?
I'm a medical license holder myself, and like what they do now is they give you they'll give you like certain places to go to buy it, right?
Is it cheaper for the medical patient?
It's essentially cheaper, but like you're limited because you have to buy this product from this company and this product from this company, where like the convenience of just walking into a store that has all the brands and all the stuff, if they do, available, is probably easier than most people find, right? Than waiting.
Are doctors still prescribing prescriptions the way that they were before, or do they do that less now because it's easily, like, if you want it, you can just go in and get it?
You can just go in and get it. Yeah. It's super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can sign up I think I signed up from somebody online. Like I liked a Facebook post and they contacted me like, hey, you want your license? Yeah.
Well, that's the way it was for years. Like you couldn't go anywhere in downtown Toronto.
I just told them my back
every 5 blocks, there was a doctor saying, here's your script, right? It's $400.
Yeah. So they're free now. So
it's free now.
I think mine was free.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's changed.
I think there's still some people who are charging. I don't know. I've never really got into that. Like, so I never got a license until I hurt my back, right? So during all of legalization, when people were acquiring their licenses,
well, you were going the activist route. Yeah, you put yourself out there.
I didn't believe I needed a license. I used it, you know, for my own reasons, and I didn't think I needed a license. So
I Googled you before we came here, and one of the big things that comes up is you standing on the front line of the Global Marijuana March, holding one of your activist signs, right front line. Out of all 20,000 people, you're right up at the front. And there's a couple different people that were beside you. One of them was Mark Emery, who used to be known as the Prince of Pot here in Canada. Kind of got, a really big cult following, and then it all fell apart real quick, and he disappeared during legalization. Real quick, without saying anything salacious. Was Mark Emery a good thing for the movement, or did that push that back a couple of years with him?
I think he was at one point.
Yeah.
And I think just like anybody else, you can be a good role model and fall off. And I think he fell off. I think he got a little bit to his head, maybe a little bit.
A lot of power comes great responsibility, right?
I wasn't standing beside him. I wouldn't stand beside that man. I was Matt Murdoff I was standing beside.
Oh, Matt, who ran for Toronto mayor.
Also a legend in the industry.
Yep.
It made serious leaps and bounds in the
Amy
cannabis
Anonymous
community.
was beside you guys, another legend.
People like myself to be an activist.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So is there an activist movement anymore inside of cannabis as far as you know?
I'm not a part of it, if there is.
Okay.
A lot of the older dogs have kind of trickled away, and we're just kind of getting on with our lives. You know, we got what we wanted, right? And now it's kind of some of us are in the industry, working in the industry. Some of us aren't. And, some of us are off to new adventures and ventures in our lives, but
well, and I'll tell you firsthand,
there's still lots of work to be done. And I hope that there's people out there still fighting the good fight, because like there's still work to be done in just the cannabis industry alone.
Well, I watched your group personally, and whether it was coming from you directly or whoever, the group themselves, do a lot of work on people that were with no hope, that had known nothing about RSO. Their daughters were having seizures, or their sons were having seizures, or their husbands, or whoever. And I watched you guys go above and beyond for those people, get them relief, get them treatment, educate them properly.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for you guys, this is the reason why I even brought you on. If it wasn't for people like you, this wouldn't, if it was legalized, it would have been legalized for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, like we wanted it for our patients. Like we definitely lost money making when it.
I watched you throw thousands of dollars away.
Make the joke, you know, because I'm still selling cannabis legally, but I make the joke, you know, I don't make any money anymore, but like I don't regret it. Like,
you never did.
I think like again in the next few years we're gonna make so many leaps and bounds in the science and of cannabis and learning about it and how we can help people with it. That I think it's all we're going to be worth it, right? So
I'll read you some stuff here. I printed out a whole bunch of notes, but I think I've only need a couple talking points before we get you out of here. The federal and provincial governments earned $2.2 billion from recreational cannabis in March. That's reported in March 31st of 2024. So 2024, basically, they had made $2.2 billion from recreational cannabis. That's a pretty big number. I would feel like that would be higher, though. Is that because the gray market's still existing?
Yeah, like I think if you go off the reports, like they're saying like only like so many people purchase from the black market nowadays, what we call the black market, right?
Yeah.
But
the things you had to do 20 years ago to get a gram of weed in the middle of the night,
like a lot of people are still purchasing from the black market.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. You see it,
continue.
You could drive down the street next over from here and see 3 OCS stores and see 1 or 2 gray market stores. Yeah. I don't know how they're operating, but they are. So there still is a market there, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's why the numbers
sovereign shops for sure.
There's 3,000 stores, legal stores nationally. Yeah. Is that a big enough number, or is that too much?
It's too much.
It's too much. Right?
As somebody who is helping run a store and working in a shop, I want our shop to do good, and it's just the competitors. You said you go down the street, there's 3 shops on this street, right? Like they're competing, right? So, and it makes for a very, like, we have to be good at our jobs. So
now I don't know what, this doesn't give me an age, but in 2024, it's saying 6% of all people in Canada are reported consuming cannabis daily or almost daily.
That's awesome. Of a country, 6% of a whole country. That's a lot of
6%.
And it's wrong. I guarantee you it's more.
Really? You think that would be a higher number?
I think so. Cause like you got to go, those stats are just going off honesty, right? Like I'm sure like, 2 out of every 5 people they ask are actually smoke or actually partake.
Well, we got a couple people in the room. So let's say out of the 5 people in the room, how many actually smoke cannabis or use cannabis consumption on a daily or bi-daily basis? Put up your hands, don't out yourselves.
Yeah.
The entire room.
5 out of 5.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you got a little bit of an education here. I don't know if you did. I just really wanted to talk to my friend who knows so much more about cannabis and the legal market than I could ever. Subscribe, like the channel, comment below if you disagree, agree. I just want to know. We're trying to educate each other. Download the TPL app right now on Android or Apple. You can type in True Patriot Love. You will find our app. Go to our website, tplmedia.ca. And stay fresh, ladies and gentlemen.